Have you seen him? A judge with silver hair, spectacles that scream wisdom, and a gaze that seems to pierce through every lie ever told. He sits high on the bench, draped in a black robe of absolute authority. In just a few minutes, he can silence the most arrogant CEOs and force the most cunning scammers to bow their heads in shame. In the world of Judge Simpson, justice is never delayed. It is instant, it is perfect, and it is deeply satisfying to the soul. But here is the real issue that will leave you stunned. That courtroom does not exist. Those thunderous rulings were never entered into the legal records of any state. And the Judge Simpson you have placed your absolute trust in is, in reality, a storyteller within a meticulously crafted script designed to perform power. Tonight, I am going to peel back the dark truth behind this name and decode the reason why millions of people, perhaps including you, are so willing to believe in a fantasy of justice rather than the actual legal system. We live in a world where the real legal system is often too slow, too complex, and sometimes feels fundamentally unfair. The powerful always seem to find a loophole to escape accountability. It is this hidden pain and secret frustration that has created a massive information gap in your mind. Judge Simpson appears as an emotional savior, filling that void with the exact scenes of retribution that reality rarely provides. You aren't just watching a trial, you are participating in an escape from a reality that feels boring and unjust. Every one of Simpson's verdicts acts like a drug to soothe the indignation burning inside you. But what is the price of this medicine? When we begin to trust fictional judges more than actual institutions, our faith in the very foundations of society is being eroded in silence. I am going to show you exactly how they borrow authority through the robe, the wooden bench, and pseudo-legal terminology to trick your brain. This isn't a criminal case. This is a case of the manipulation of belief through storytelling. Prepare yourself, because the truth behind the name Judge Simpson will completely change the way you look at instant justice videos on YouTube forever. Think about the last time you watched a video of Judge Simpson. What did you actually see? You saw a high wooden bench. You saw a gavel. You saw the American flag standing tall in the corner, and a man draped in a heavy black silk robe. These aren't just props. They are the uniforms of truth. For centuries, these symbols have been etched into our collective consciousness as the ultimate markers of state power and moral finality. When you see that robe, your brain stops asking for a law degree or a bar association certification. It simply grants borrowed authority. In the world of viral storytelling, this is what we call the visual trap. The creators of Judge Simpson understand a fundamental secret of human psychology. We are wired to respect the symbol of the office even if the office itself is hollow. This part of the case is what I call the case no one wanted to touch, because it exposes how easily our critical thinking can be bypassed by simple aesthetics. Notice the lighting in those videos. It's often slightly dim, focused only on the judge, making him appear as the sole source of light and truth in a dark, chaotic world. But look closer at the gallery. In almost every video, there are people sitting in the background, often men in uniforms or somber suits. They sit in silence, nodding at the judge's words. Why are they there? They are social proof. Their presence tells your subconscious, if these professionals respect him, I should too. It creates a sense of reverence that borders on fear. In the original DUI story we analyzed, the presence of silent officers created an atmosphere where an untouchable son of power was finally brought to heel. It felt real because the environment felt heavy with the weight of the law. The dark truth is that this architecture is designed to trigger your survival instinct. When we feel that society is falling apart, when we see crime, corruption, and untouchable elites getting away with everything, we crave a strong man in a robe. We want someone to bang that gavel and make the world make sense again. Judge Simpson doesn't just provide a verdict, he provides a psychological anchor. He stands as a barrier between us and the chaos we fear. By using these symbols, the narrative borrows the history and gravity of the entire U.S. judicial system to sell you a script. It is a masterpiece of narrative voodoo. They take the what, the visual cues, and use them to manipulate the why, your deep-seated need for order. This is the first layer of the dark truth behind the name. It's not just about a man on a bench. It's about a system of symbols designed to make you stop questioning and start believing. As we peel back this layer, we begin to see the cracks. We start to notice that the legal language used is just word salad designed to sound authoritative without actually following the due process. But your heart doesn't care about due process. It cares about the mic drop moment. And that is exactly where the trap is set. The visual trap is set. The robe is on. But symbols alone cannot keep a viewer engaged for 20 minutes. To achieve that, you need something far more potent, a weaponized script. In the case no one wanted to touch, the real magic isn't in the law. It's in the neuro-storytelling. Every word is a calculated strike against your emotional defenses, designed to trigger a specific sequence of chemical reactions in your brain. First cortisol, stress, anger, then a massive hit of dopamine, satisfaction, reward. Look at how the script introduces the villain. Whether it's an arrogant CEO or a sheriff's son who thinks he's untouchable, the script immediately frames them through the lens of status humiliation. We see the $1,000 suit, the expensive watch, the bored expression. This is the arrogance trigger. It is designed to make you, the viewer, feel an immediate sense of injustice. The script doesn't just tell you he's guilty, it makes you crave his downfall. This is the pain point of the narrative. We all have felt the sting of someone getting away with something because of their name or their money. The script identifies that wound and pours salt into it. Then the script introduces the moral anchor, the victim. Think of Harold Jennings from the original case. He isn't just a victim. He is a decorated veteran, a man of quiet dignity, a father working late shifts for his daughter's medicine. This is a masterclass in archetypal framing. By contrasting the untouchable defendant with the selfless victim, the script creates a moral vacuum that only Judge Simpson can fill. When Harold speaks about borrowing money from his church, the script is hooking your heart. It forces you to invest emotionally. You aren't watching a legal proceeding anymore. You are watching a battle between good and evil. The climax of every Judge Simpson video is the moral monologue. This is where the script departs entirely from real legal procedure. In a real court, a judge is bound by the rules of evidence and neutral conduct. But Judge Simpson, he is the voice of the people. When he leans forward and says, "Your father's rank means nothing here," he is delivering the mic drop that we all wish we could say to the bullies in our own lives. This is catharsis by proxy. The script isn't resolving a legal dispute, it is resolving your personal frustrations with the world. The dark truth of this case no one wanted to touch is that the script is a mirror. It reflects our deepest desires for a world where the scales of justice are actually balanced in real time. The dialogue is written to be quotable and shareable, using simple, punchy sentences that avoid legal jargon. It's designed for the ear, for the soul, and most importantly, for the YouTube algorithm. By the time Simpson bangs his gavel, your brain has reached an emotional peak. You feel a sense of moral closure that reality almost never provides. And that is exactly why you will click on the next video. You aren't looking for law, you are looking for that feeling again. Have you ever noticed the small text in the corner of the screen? Or perhaps the disclaimer buried deep in the video description that says, "For entertainment purposes only"? Most people don't, and even those who do often choose to look away. This is the case no one wanted to touch, because it challenges our own intellectual honesty. Why does a rational, grown adult ignore the clear signs of a stage production? The answer lies in a biological phenomenon I call the thirst for moral closure. Your brain is not a recording device. It is a meaning-making machine. When you see a sheriff's son behaving like a monster, your nervous system enters a state of high tension. This is a cortisol spike. Evolutionarily, we are wired to detect unfairness because, in a tribe, an unfair leader meant death for everyone else. When Judge Simpson begins his monologue, your brain isn't looking for legal accuracy. It is looking for homeostasis. It needs the world to be right again so it can stop the stress response. This is why you ignore the stage lighting or the overly dramatic music. Your brain has entered a state of cognitive blindness. It literally filters out any information that would ruin the solution to your emotional stress. In my 10 years of analyzing YouTube algorithms and viewer psychology, I've discovered that the most successful authority narratives rely on confirmation bias. You already believe that the world is tilted in favor of the rich. You already feel that the little guy never wins. Judge Simpson doesn't challenge your worldview. He confirms it by providing the one thing reality lacks: an immediate crushing consequence for the villain. This creates a powerful neurolink. You stop viewing the video as content and start viewing it as proof that justice is still possible. Look at the red flags we often miss. In these videos, the laws cited are often vague or non-existent. The sentences handed out are frequently unconstitutional or impossible in a real court. But the script uses pseudo-authority language, words like "by the power vested in me" or "contempt of court," to trigger your subconscious respect for the institution. It's a psychological backdoor. By the time the rational part of your brain catches up, the emotional part has already felt the satisfaction of the gavel hitting the wood. The dark truth is that we want to be lied to if the lie makes us feel safe. We are willing to accept a fictional judge because the real ones often leave us feeling cold and forgotten. Judge Simpson is the placebo of justice. He doesn't cure the systemic problems of the legal system, but he makes the pain go away for 20 minutes. And in a world filled with unresolved anger, that placebo is worth millions of views. We ignore the red flags because we are terrified that if we admit the court isn't real, we have to admit that the untouchables are still out there unpunished. Have you ever noticed that in a Judge Simpson video, the legal arguments move at lightning speed? There are no months of discovery, no endless motions, and no complex debates over the rules of evidence. This is because Judge Simpson doesn't practice law. He practices moral velocity. This is the heart of the case no one wanted to touch, because it reveals how the script uses pseudo-legal vocabulary to bypass your logical brain and speak directly to your sense of vengeance. In the original case of the sheriff's son, we heard phrases like "sealed at the direction of the sheriff's office" and "above my pay grade." These phrases feel heavy and authentic because they mimic the language of real-world corruption. But when Judge Simpson responds, he doesn't cite specific statutes or constitutional amendments. Instead, he uses what I call power phrases. He says things like, "I am invoking the judicial precedent of moral necessity," or "I am issuing an irrevocable mandate of restitution." To a trained lawyer, these terms are meaningless word salad. But to you, the viewer, they sound like the voice of God. They sound like a power that cannot be questioned. This is the linguistic mirage. The scriptwriters know that if they used real legal jargon, discussing tort reform or evidentiary hearsay exceptions, you would click away in seconds. It's too dry. It's too slow. So they replace due process with dramatic process. In Judge Simpson's court, the law is whatever sounds the most righteous in the moment. When he tells an untouchable defendant, "Your father's badge is a shield for the public, not a cloak for your crimes," he is using poetic justice to replace statutory justice. Your brain is so satisfied by the mic drop that it never stops to ask, "Wait, can a judge actually do that?" The dark truth is that this creates a dangerous expectation. By watching these legal mirages, we become conditioned to think that justice should be this simple. We start to resent the real legal system for being slow or weak because it doesn't deliver the instant dopamine hit that Judge Simpson provides. The script leverages your frustration with the complexity of the law to sell you a simplified fantasy of the gavel. In these videos, the gavel isn't just a tool to maintain order, it is a weapon used to execute a moral sentence. We ignore the fact that in a real courtroom, a judge who acted like Simpson, shouting at defendants, making personal attacks, and ignoring procedural rights, would be removed from the bench and his rulings overturned on appeal within 24 hours. But in the digital court of public opinion, Simpson is the hero because he cuts through the red tape that we all hate. He is the fantasy of a man who can break the rules to fix the system. And that, my friends, is the most seductive lie of all. We have looked at the robe, the script, and the pseudo-law, but now we must look at the why. Why does the case no one wanted to touch exist in the first place? The dark truth is that you are not watching a courtroom. You are watching a content factory designed to harvest your outrage. In my 10 years of navigating the YouTube ecosystem, I have seen many trends, but none are as calculated as the viral justice genre. This is where justice stops being a social ideal and starts being a commodity. Every time you see a title like Judge Simpson reveals the dark truth, the algorithm isn't looking for a legal record, it is looking for your engagement metrics. The creators of these videos understand a fundamental emotional trigger. Outrage is the most addictive emotion. When you see an untouchable defendant behaving badly, you don't just watch, you comment, you share, and you click. This creates a viral loop. The more angry you get, the more the algorithm pushes the video to others who feel the same way. The dark truth isn't about a hidden name in a file. It's about the fact that your sense of right and wrong is being used to fuel a multi-million-dollar advertising machine. Think about the demographic these videos target, often viewers aged 50 to 80. This is a generation that values tradition, respect, and clear-cut morality. The script writers know this. They create Judge Simpson as a figure of nostalgic authority. He is the man who tells it like it is, the one who isn't afraid of political correctness or influential names. By positioning Simpson against a corrupt modern world, the factory creates a perfect emotional hook. They aren't just selling you a story, they are selling you a feeling of being heard. They take your real-world frustrations with society and package them into a 20-minute dopamine hit of instant justice. But here is the dark side of the factory. Consistency kills authenticity. To keep the channel growing, they must produce the case no one wanted to touch every single week. But real life doesn't provide dramatic, heart-wrenching, perfectly resolved court cases on a weekly schedule. So, the factory begins to enhance the truth. They take a grain of a real story and wrap it in layers of fiction. They use borrowed authority to hide the fact that the sheriff's son or the corrupt CEO is often just a paid actor or a complete fabrication. The name Judge Simpson himself is a masterpiece of algorithmic branding. It sounds familiar, like Judge Caprio or Judge Judy, but it carries enough anonymity to avoid direct legal scrutiny. It is a safe icon for the digital age. The factory doesn't want you to ask for his bar number. They want you to hit the subscribe button because you love the way he made you feel when he silenced the bully. The truth is, the most untouchable thing in this entire case isn't the defendant. It is the profit margin of the content creator. As long as you keep clicking to see justice served, the factory will keep building more mirages. We have arrived at the most uncomfortable chapter of the case no one wanted to touch. Up until now, we have talked about scripts, lighting, and algorithms, but now we must talk about the social fallout. The dark truth is that every time you watch Judge Simpson silence an untouchable criminal, a small part of your faith in the real world dies. This is what sociologists call the mean world syndrome, amplified by digital fiction. When we become addicted to the instant justice of a scripted judge, the slow, messy, and complicated reality of a real courtroom begins to look like a failure. In my decade of deconstructing content, I have seen this pattern repeat. When the placebo of justice becomes our primary source of moral satisfaction, we lose the patience required for actual reform. Look at the original case of the sheriff's son. The narrative made you feel that the only way to get justice was through a hero judge who breaks the rules. This is a dangerous seed to plant in the mind of a citizen. It suggests that the system is broken beyond repair and that our only hope is a fictional savior with a gavel. This is the ultimate dark truth behind the name. Judge Simpson doesn't strengthen your belief in the law. He strengthens your belief that the law is a lie unless it's dramatic. Think about the untouchables in your own life, the corrupt bosses, the dishonest politicians, the neighbors who break the rules. When you watch Judge Simpson, you are experiencing catharsis without action. You feel like justice has been served, so you stop being angry at the real injustices in your community. Your brain registers the win in the video and releases the pressure. This is the social trap. The content factory gives you a fake victory so that you don't pursue a real one. We call this the case no one wanted to touch because it implicates us, the viewers. By choosing the fantasy, we are inadvertently contributing to the erosion of institutional trust. Furthermore, this narrative creates a distorted standard. Real judges are bound by ethics. They cannot scream at defendants or bring up sealed records without following the law. When real judges act professionally, they look weak compared to the aggressive performance of Judge Simpson. We are training ourselves to prefer theatrical tyranny over fair process. We are moving toward a society that doesn't want a fair trial. It wants a public execution of the villain's reputation. The dark truth is that the name Judge Simpson stands as a tombstone for the truth. He is a symbol of a world that has given up on reality because the fiction feels so much better. As we look at the officers in the gallery and the decorated veterans in the script, we must realize they are being used to borrow authority for a narrative that ultimately makes us more cynical, more divided, and more fearful. We have traded our media literacy for a dopamine hit, and the cost is the very fabric of our shared reality. The untouchable truth is that as long as we prefer the lie, the real villains continue to operate in the shadows, knowing we are too busy watching a scripted judge to ever look their way. We have traveled through the shadows of the content factory, deconstructed the visual traps of the robe, and exposed the linguistic mirages of pseudo-law. Now, the gavel must fall for the final time. We began this journey with a question. What is the dark truth behind the name Judge Simpson? After everything we have uncovered, the answer is more profound than a simple, he's not a real judge. The dark truth is that Judge Simpson is a digital mirror. He is a reflection of a society that is so starved for accountability, so exhausted by the untouchables, that it would rather embrace a beautiful lie than face a cold, complicated reality. This was truly the case no one wanted to touch, because it forces us to look at ourselves. We are the ones who gave the name power. Every click, every amen in the comments, and every shared video was a vote for a world where justice is a performance rather than a process. But today, the performance ends. The real verdict is this. True justice cannot be found in an algorithm. It doesn't come in 20-minute dopamine hits, and it certainly isn't delivered by actors in borrowed robes. Real justice is slow, it is often frustrating, and it requires the participation of informed, vigilant citizens, not just passive viewers. As I close the file on this investigation, I want you to remember Harold Jennings from our original case. Remember the dignity of the man who served his country and worked late shifts for his daughter. Men like Harold deserve more than a scripted fantasy. They deserve a legal system that actually works. When we settle for Judge Simpson, we are telling the world that we have given up on the real Harold Jennings of the world. We are saying that we would rather be entertained by a fake victory than fight for a real one. So, what is the next step? It starts with media literacy. The next time you see an untouchable defendant brought before a viral judge, look for the red flags. Question the authority. Demand the sources. Don't let your emotional triggers be used as a profit center for a content factory. Reclaim your sense of right and wrong from those who wish to monetize it. The dark truth is only dark as long as it stays hidden. Once you see the strings, the puppet loses its power. I am Judge Simpson, not the man in the robe you see in the thumbnails, but the voice of strategic analysis and the pursuit of narrative truth. My mission is to provide you with the tools to navigate this digital age with your eyes wide open. If this 8-part investigation has changed the way you see the scales of justice on your screen, then our work here is done. Justice isn't just about what happens in a courtroom. It's about what happens in the mind of the person watching. The case is closed, but the conversation is just beginning.